Excel is a popular topic with teachers here. This year I've gotten a lot of questions about some different things we can do with Excel. Kind of an interesting thing showed up in my inbox today, and I thought I would, not to pick on this particular teacher, but I thought I would just take this particular item analysis and use it as an example of some things that can be done in Excel. So this is a test item analysis. I'll assume directly out of AIL. You can see we have the students. We have their each student's raw score for the test, and we've also been provided the average for each question as a class. Now that's great, but this student wanted a couple other questions answered. They wanted to find out how many students answered each question correctly, and of course the flip side of that, how many students did not answer each question correctly. So one of our first golden rules was uncovered very early on in this conversation and back and forth. The correct answer was not, as I had assumed, the letter that was referred to in the header for each column. It was, in fact, represented by this asterisk, which is a common wildcard character in all things Microsoft. This will prove to be a bit of a challenge later, and we'll overcome that one when we get to it. One other thing I should point out is, notice how this sheet has got spaces in the name. You will regret this if you build up any complex tables with multiple sheets, as Excel cannot manage relationships between sheets that have spaces in the names. So it's just a good habit to go ahead and get into, to either do away with spaces altogether or at least replace spaces with underscore characters. Alright, so there's a couple of ways to accomplish something like this. The easiest way would be to simply highlight a column, go to our data header up here in the ribbon, and choose to apply a filter. Now that I have this little drop-down triangle, I can choose to filter and only see results that match this criteria. So the teacher has told me that the asterisk represents the correct answer, so I'll take that away, and now I should only be left with students who supplied an incorrect answer. Now there's a couple of limitations with filters, obviously. One is, if I then try and add a second filter, you'll notice that I can only instantiate it once at a given time on a given field. So if I wanted to apply filters across this entire table, I would need to shift select all of the tables and apply filters simultaneously. Now the second weakness with filters is, obviously, if I choose to only see the incorrect answers here and then choose to only see the incorrect answers here, well, rapidly I have no results left to really look at. So the filters break the data down a little too quickly. So I'm going to clear all those filters by, again, shift selecting and toggling off filters. So we know we're going to need something a little heavier duty than just a filter. So Excel happens to come with a native formula called the COUNTIF function. So let's invoke that function. Again, to invoke any function or formula in Excel, we simply start with an equal sign. That lets Excel know I'm not about to enter data in this field. What I'm about to enter is a calculation or a formula. So COUNTIF is literally count if. Notice that tells me it's going to count the number of cells within a range that meet a given condition. So that sounds great. Let's do it. Alright, first thing I have to do is select my cell range. Well, the range I'm interested in is each student's individual response to each individual question. So I'm going to shift select my range. Now I've satisfied that requirement. Next step is to put in a comma, and now I need to supply the criteria. Well, okay, here's that first hurdle I spoke of earlier. Whatever the text is we're actually looking for, raw text, we put in between quotation marks. So I'm going to tell it that I am looking for just asterisks. Well, there's one problem with that. Asterisk is a wildcard function in Excel and in most Microsoft programs for that matter. So you'll notice that I now show 31 students having answered correctly. However, I have a student that answered incorrectly, and I only have 31 students. So clearly that's just telling me all non-blank fields, which is not what I want. Fortunately, we can fix that easily in Excel and most Microsoft products. In order to override the wildcard nature of an asterisk, we simply precede it with a tilde. And that now tells it I want to treat that asterisk as an actual character, an ASCII character, not as a wildcard. Hit the Enter key, and now you'll notice now I've got the correct number. So indeed, 29 of my students did answer correctly. I'm going to drag that formula out across all cells. Now, the next step, how many students did not answer correctly? Well, there are some formula we could use to do this, but this is one of those cases where sometimes the simplest answer is the best answer. So let's simply say I want to make a calculation, so I start with an equal sign. I know that I have 32 students minus this header field here, so that's 31 students. So I've got 31 students total in this class, and I'm going to subtract from that however many answered correctly, and that should give us the total that answered incorrectly. Alright, so there's 1, 2. If I'm satisfied that my formula is giving me the correct results, I can now simply click and drag that formula out across the entire range of cells, and the formula will automatically update, as in all things Excel, to the correct range. And we're done. It's as easy as that.